Failure is something we all fear, yet it is often life's greatest teacher. While most people focus on winning, few learn the skill that makes success possible, the ability to recover from defeat. But what if the secret to winning isn't avoiding failure at all? What if it's learning how to lose well? Every setback presents a choice. You can allow it to define you, or you can allow it to develop you. The people who achieve remarkable things aren't those who never fail. They are the ones who learn, adapt, and rise stronger because of it. Today's story explores a powerful truth that many overlook. Life's most valuable lessons rarely arrive through comfort or success. More often, they emerge from disappointment, struggle, and the moments when things don't go as planned. And as the story unfolds, you'll also encounter rich and meaningful vocabulary woven naturally into the narrative, helping you discover and absorb new words effortlessly while enjoying the journey. So settle in and let's begin. The sun rose over Athens, bathing the city in warm golden light. Merchants arranged their wares, children darted through narrow streets, and philosophers debated beneath marble columns. Life coursed through the city like a restless torrent. Craftsmen prepared for another bustling day in the marketplace. Among them was a young potter named Lysander. Lysander was renowned for his talent. His hands could shape clay into exquisite forms that few others could rival, but talent was not enough for him. He sought perfection. He wanted to create something so extraordinary that all of Athens would remember his name. For years, he pursued flawless results. If a vase bore the slightest imperfection, he destroyed it. If a bowl emerged from the kiln with even a tiny flaw, he smashed it without hesitation. He believed that only perfection deserved to survive. One day, he resolved to create the greatest amphora Athens had ever seen. He spent months selecting the finest clay and shaping every detail with meticulous care. He labored before sunrise and long after sunset. He ignored invitations from friends and forsook days of rest. Every ounce of his energy went into that single vessel. When it was finally complete, it was magnificent. Elegant curves cascaded from top to bottom. Intricate carvings encircled its surface. The amphora gleamed in the sunlight like a treasure. Lysander was certain this masterpiece would transform his life. News of the creation spread throughout the city. Merchants spoke about it. Affluent collectors wanted to see it. Even rival potters were intrigued. Soon, the unveiling of Lysander's masterpiece became the most anticipated event in the marketplace. The night before the event, Lysander barely slept. He envisioned the applause. He envisioned the praise. He envisioned customers competing to buy his work. Most of all, he imagined proving to everyone that he was the finest potter in Athens. The next morning, a vast crowd gathered. Excitement hummed through the marketplace. Lysander emerged from his workshop, carrying the amphora carefully in both hands. The crowd immediately fell silent. The vessel sparkled in the sunlight. The crowd gasped in astonishment. This was the moment Lysander had dreamed of for years. His heart raced as he stepped toward the platform where the amphora would be displayed. For a fleeting moment, everything was perfect. Then calamity struck. A child suddenly darted through the crowd. Someone jostled another spectator. Startled, Lysander shifted his balance. For the briefest moment, his grip loosened. The amphora slipped from his hands. Time seemed to halt. Lysander lunged forward, striving desperately to catch it, but he was too late. The amphora crashed onto the stone pavement. Crack! The sound reverberated across the square. The amphora shattered into dozens of pieces. For a moment, nobody moved. Lysander stood motionless as he stared at the fragments in horror. Months of work sacrifice, and hope lay strewn at his feet. Then the laughter began. Some people covered their mouths, others openly pointed and laughed. A few rival potters smirked with satisfaction. Lysander felt as though the ground had vanished beneath him. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to blame someone, anyone, the child, the crowd, the stones, fate itself. As he stared at the broken fragments, an elderly philosopher stepped forward. The old man gazed calmly at the shattered amphora, and then at the devastated potter. "Why do you mourn?" he asked. Lysander could hardly believe the question. "Why do I mourn?" he replied bitterly. "Everything I worked for has been destroyed." The philosopher nodded and picked up a fragment of the vessel. "Has it?" Lysander stared at him. The old man continued, "Do not curse the stone. Do not curse your hands. The amphora has taught you something that success never could." "What lesson?" Lysander demanded. The philosopher smiled. "The lesson that every person must eventually learn." He held up the broken piece. "Perfection is fragile. Wisdom blossoms from failure." Then he returned the fragment and quietly departed. Lysander was furious. The words felt hollow. What wisdom could possibly be worth this humiliation? For days, he stayed away from the marketplace. He replayed the disaster repeatedly in his mind. Every time he thought about it, his stomach tightened with regret. One evening, unable to stop thinking about it, he gathered the broken pieces and brought them back to his workshop. As he spread them across a table, something caught his eye. The cracks created exquisite patterns. The broken edges formed shapes he had never noticed before. For the first time, he saw something unexpected in the destruction: beauty. The vessel was no longer perfect, but somehow it felt more intriguing than before. The thought stayed with him. Night after night, he studied the fragments. Slowly, an idea began to take form. Instead of discarding the pieces, he carefully reassembled them. Wherever cracks appeared, he filled them with delicate lines of gold. The gold did not conceal the damage, it celebrated it. Every fracture remained visible. Every scar became part of the narrative. When he finally finished, he stepped back in amazement. The amphora was no longer flawless. It was something greater. It was real. Months later, Lysander returned to the marketplace carrying the repaired vessel. The same marketplace where he had once been humiliated. The same marketplace where people laughed. Again, a crowd gathered. But this time, the reaction was different. People stared at the golden cracks running through the vessel. They asked questions. They listened as Lysander explained how it had been shattered and rebuilt. The crowd became captivated. The vessel's value did not come from perfection. It came from its story. Soon, people traveled from distant cities to buy his work. Lysander began creating new vessels that embraced imperfection instead of concealing it. Every crack, every scar, every flaw became part of the design. His creations became renowned throughout Greece. Years later, whenever a student became discouraged by mistakes, Lysander would show them the famous amphora. Then he would say, "Do not fear the crack. The crack is where the lesson enters. Your failures are not the end of your story. They are the lines of gold that will one day make it worth telling." Anyone can celebrate victory. Few can learn from defeat. Yet those who learn how to lose well eventually learn how to win. And so, the people of Athens did not remember Lysander as the potter who dropped his masterpiece. They remembered him as the man who turned his greatest failure into his greatest success. Because the secret to winning is not avoiding failure. The secret is learning how to use failure as fuel for success. The lesson of this story is simple. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is often the path to it. Every loss carries a lesson, and every setback contains an opportunity to grow. What separates successful people from everyone else is not that they never fall. It's that they refuse to stay down. They learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. The next time life doesn't go your way, remember the potter and his shattered vessel. Your greatest failure may be preparing you for your greatest breakthrough, because the art of losing well is what ultimately teaches us how to win. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments what lesson, insight, or moment spoke to you most. If you know someone who could benefit from this message, pass it along and let the story inspire them too. Until the next journey, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.